Spies with No Country, a briefcase nobody opens, and car chases so real the actors were genuinely terrified. In 1998, John Frankenheimer made a film that didn't just feature great action, it redefined what action cinema could look like without a single frame of CGI, without slow motion, and without mercy. It was called Ronin. It grossed $70 million worldwide, earned a cult following that grows every year, and behind the scenes produced some of the most audacious, reckless, and brilliant filmmaking decisions in Hollywood history. Here are 20 mind-blowing facts, plus 2 bonus reveals about Ronin. The screenplay began with writer J.D. Zeke. Then David Mamet was brought in as a script doctor. What followed was a full-scale credit war. Mamet, unwilling to take credit under those circumstances, asked to have his name removed entirely and took the pseudonym Richard Weisz instead. The man who rewrote almost every line of the most celebrated espionage film of the decade doesn't officially exist in the credits. Actor Skip Sudduth asked if he could do his own stunt driving. Most directors would have said no. Frankenheimer said yes and gave him one instruction: I don't want to see any brake lights. That single direction set the tone for the entire film. Everything real, everything fast, no hesitations, no safety limits.
The special thing that it has to offer is that it's actually going to be a stunt car driver sitting in the trunk of the car who's driving the car. They have a box that they put over the pedals so my feet can't actually go to the brake or the gas, just in case I panic.
De Niro was driven at speeds approaching 100 miles per hour through Paris tunnels at night by Le Mans professional Jean-Claude Leganez. He was genuinely terrified. Frankenheimer's wife had to ride with Leganez to prove it was physically safe before De Niro agreed to get in the car. Watch De Niro's face during those scenes. That's not acting. That's a legend clinging on for his life.
I hadn't met him and I didn't know what he was like. I had an impression that he was like maybe an older style kind of certain type of director that was rigid in certain ways, and I didn't know whether it would be. When I met him, I saw he was a smart guy, and he had full intentions of making it a lot better than what he had.
The production brought multiple BMWs and Peugeots, physically cut them in half and welded what remained to the back of a Mercedes tow rig. The actors sat inside the half shells while a professional driver propelled the whole assembly at speed. The cars you see in those close-up shots are literally not whole cars. The sequence where cars race the wrong way down a Parisian 3-lane road was not faked. The oncoming cars were driven by 100 professional race drivers, including former Formula One driver Jean-Pierre Jarier. Holding their line at 35 miles per hour, the chase cars weaved between them at more than double that speed. What looks like chaos was a perfectly choreographed race, event hidden inside a film. Jonathan Pryce said afterwards, "I've done Shakespeare, I've done Chekhov, and now I've done Fear. There was no acting on my part, believe me." One of the most respected stage actors in Britain confirmed that Frankenheimer's car chase terrified him more thoroughly than any theatrical experience of his career.
He is the person who's brought together all the different organizations and different sort of mercenary figures in a group in order to do this job. But they don't know, they've never met him, they don't meet him. So they don't know that he's in charge as well.
When The Matrix was transforming Hollywood, Frankenheimer insisted on zero CGI in the chase sequences, no frame rate adjustments, no digital environments. He also recorded all car engine sounds at a racetrack for complete authenticity. Every scratch, every skid mark, every near miss, real.
And as far as filming on location is concerned, I've been doing that for more years than I would care to say. And as far as shooting all the car stuff for real, that's what I've done.
8 minutes of the most celebrated car action in cinema history had to be completed within a 5-hour window before roads reopened to the public. 300 stunt performers, multiple camera vehicles, precise choreography across kilometers of city streets. 5 hours. The team completed it. chief of police of Paris gave the crew one instruction: let them do what they want, no restrictions. A city government handed a Hollywood film crew the keys to its streets, and its reasons those sequences feel like nothing else in cinema. Across both chase sequences and all associated production, 80 cars were destroyed. Not dented, not repaired, destroyed. 80 automobiles existed for the sole purpose of being eliminated so audiences could watch 8 minutes of Paris streets. The tunnel sequences were not shot exclusively at night, not for atmosphere, but because it was physically impossible to close those tunnels to traffic during daylight hours. The moody, claustrophobic lighting that gives those scenes their tension wasn't a visual choice. It was a scheduling solution. The entire film's driven by a mysterious briefcase that everyone wants and nobody questions. It is never opened. Its contents are never revealed. Frankenheimer confirmed this was entirely intentional, a direct homage to Hitchcock's concept of the MacGuffin. The most fought-over object in any 90s thriller is empty of meaning by design.
What's in the case? What's in the case? What's in the case?
Sean Bean played the villain in GoldenEye. Michael Lonsdale played the villain in Moonraker. Jonathan Pryce played the villain in Tomorrow Never Dies. 3 actors who each face James Bond, sharing scenes in a single spy thriller that has nothing to do with Bond at all.
The 47 Ronin. Do you know it? 47 samurai whose master was betrayed and killed by another lord. They became Ronin, masterless samurai.
The company of these people have also been hired, and he's a little bit out of his depth. He's got quite an overinflated opinion of himself. He thinks he's much more...
Here's a genuine shock of Ronin. His character, Spence, doesn't die. He's exposed as a fraud and removed from the team, but he walks away alive. In a film full of genuine violence and high mortality, the man famous for on-screen death is the one who survives.
Oh! Almost a bit of raspberry jam back there, eh? A bit of raspberry jam back there! Got the swag, kept the money, job well done! That's a fact, that's a fact!
Before production began, Frankenheimer said publicly, "I'm going to do a car chase that's going to make everybody think about whether or not they want to do another one." Mission Impossible, Fallout, released 20 years later, was directly compared to Ronin. A director in his 60s set a standard that stood for 2 decades.
We have a car chase that goes right through Paris, all of Paris. The cars are going through Paris streets at over 100 miles an hour. And that's unheard of.
The action game Burnout cited Ronin as direct creative influence on its chase mechanics and crash physics. Alpha Protocol, the spy RPG, acknowledged it as a key reference for atmosphere and moral ambiguity. A moderate box office performer in 1998 quietly shaped the DNA of video game design for years afterward. When Ronin opened in 1998, audiences gave it a C+ on CinemaScore. It ranked behind Rush Hour on its opening weekend. Today it appears on lists of the greatest action films ever made. The audience that dismissed it in 1998 and the critics who celebrate it today watch the exact same film. Only the distance of time changed the verdict.
Yeah, well, either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution, or you're just part of the landscape.
In one word, Ronin refers to a samurai without a master, a warrior whose allegiance belongs to no one, who moves through the world unattached and dangerous. Every character in the film is precisely this: former intelligence agents, ex-military professionals without countries, operating in a moral vacuum where loyalty is transactional and death is contractual. The film's title describes both its characters and its audience, people waiting between identities, not yet where they're going. Frankenheimer needed his wife to ride with the Le Mans driver first before De Niro would agree. Then he filmed De Niro's real reaction to being driven at 100 miles per hour through Paris tunnels at night by a professional who left no margin for error. The most celebrated acting in the film's most celebrated sequence is not acting. It is a great actor's authentic experience of danger, captured on camera because a director refused to compromise. The camera mounts used during Ronin's Paris chase were not new technology. They were the same bespoke rigs Frankenheimer had built for his 1966 racing epic Grand Prix. 32 years of cinema, 2 films, 1 set of camera mounts. Some tools are simply too good to retire. Which fact just changed how you see the film? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Keep watching, keep feeling, and never stop chasing the magic of cinema. I'll catch you in the next one.